Now, it has become universally clear that Kathleen Kennedy has really made her reputation even worse than ever before, with the Dial of Destiny box office failure even outperforming the failure of Solo: A Star Wars Story, in my opinion, because this is yet again another franchise that Kathleen Kennedy drove into the ground, now adding up, of course, to 3 total, where you have Willow, Star Wars, and Indiana Jones, pretty much, really connected to Kathleen Kennedy's legacy as being a very bad one, and how Hollywood now views her as a textbook example of really being able to destroy 3 franchises in just under 10 years. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support, and let's get into exactly what's going on with Kathleen Kennedy, her damage control, and why it makes the entire situation even worse, in my opinion. Now, we know that Disney is really trying to tame the situation with the Snow White scenario, as well as with the Indy 5 box office fallout, and there is just an endless cycle of endless, problematic situations arising over at Disney between the board, Bob Iger, and others out there. Now, when it all comes down to Kathleen Kennedy, matters even get worse, because we know that people like Kathy Kennedy and Phoebe Waller-Bridge are really trying to upsell Indiana Jones 5, making it seem like it's better than what it really is, both creatively, of course, as well as at the box office. Now, she was able to kind of dive more into the whole situation and went into full damage control that I believe is just pure cringe. Let's get into this. Now, with Kathy Kennedy dealing with tons of backlash from Disney board members behind the scenes for overfunding Indy 5, recently Kathleen Kennedy went into full damage control mode for the Dial of Destiny. Now, Kennedy recently delivered the following to the fans. We here at Lucasfilm have come to realize that the Dial of Destiny may have not met fan expectations that grew up with the originals, and though we don't believe that this is a creative issue, I must have to make it clear and apparent to everyone that this was nothing more than a marketing mishap on our end, and a underwhelming strategy for us in the long run that led to a long list of loyal fans to the franchise of ongoing problems into this film expecting something different. We always aim to make the best product for our customers, whether it be TV or movies, but sometimes you miss your mark. We had a similar issue at Solo, where we didn't really do well at the box office, and we can fully admit that we are facing a similar problem here with our 5th Indiana Jones film. Now guys, let me just pause here. What's funny is that she makes it like that they made the other Indiana Jones movies, in the literal sense, under Kathleen Kennedy's supervision, but it was really all done by Lucas, Spielberg, and others that made that possible, not Kathleen Kennedy, let's be real. But let's really put this into perspective. So, both Solo and Indy 5 are pretty bad in their own different ways, because it's all rooted to Kathleen Kennedy's own mishandling of the franchises, right? With Solo, what she did was she had 2 directors on board that she was using, and they were well into principal photography. She fired them because she felt that the Han Solo movie was too comedic, and she fired them about 70% of the way through filming of that movie, and they were kicked out. She had to get Ron Howard on board to really take the film in a different direction, and that in and of itself had to be reshot 80%. That cost them a lot of money, let's just put it that way. And in Indy 5's scenario, she overfunded this movie. She didn't get a different director or anything like that, but she overfunded it to the point where she had so many scenes shot that were ended up deleted anyway, and Disney was very much unhappy about that because it was all put to waste, and they spent $300 million plus on this movie for no reason at all. So that's another big problem coming from Kathleen Kennedy. You can see how Solo and Indy 5 were done horribly on the financial end of the spectrum in their own different ways by Kathy Kennedy. So moving onwards here, she goes on to elaborate further It was never our intention to drive fans away from such a big franchise, but we must make it clear that some of the fans were the problem with this too. It wasn't entirely on us. We live in a generation now where critics can convince others to not watch a film or subscribe to a streaming service to check out a specific show, and that can be a challenge that I think has become the norm now. Indy 5 is still out in theaters so far, so for those that are still willing to check out our latest cinematic release, we do insist everyone to check out this film because it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, as we won't be adapting Indiana Jones stories anymore with Harrison Ford. However, we are still discussing sequels that could perhaps expand Helena's story, and or new characters that have been introduced before to take on Indiana Jones' legacy somehow. We do apologize for those that took this film too personally for those fans that hold great memories of the Indiana Jones franchise. Now again, this is Kathleen Kennedy doubling down on damage control in the worst way. It's almost like a sorry not sorry scenario, right? She's saying, basically, come and see this movie before it's totally out of theaters so that we can garner as much revenue as possible, because we are bleeding out, and we are bleeding out badly. And that's the ultimate truth here, guys. We know that Kathleen Kennedy knows that her legacy now is worse than ever before. It's true. You know, she dismantled Star Wars, she destroyed Willow, even though that wasn't as known as Star Wars and Indiana Jones, mind you, but still. And she really brought Indiana Jones down to the ground, which I believe was not a great send-off in comparison to The Last Crusade. You can never beat The Last Crusade, and people like Kathy and Phoebe Waller-Bridge have come forward before in the past couple of days thinking that this was a better send-off than Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade, and that really just goes to show you how stubborn and self-absorbed they really are, you know, with really kind of trying to divert from the originals. Now, here lies another problem, is that she is also plugging a pretty much big plan to continue on with sequels and expanding Helena's story or newer characters that we have not been introduced to just yet. And that just goes to show you that they don't care about fan criticism, even if they are true fans that went to go ahead and see the movie and had a very objective view about it. Still, they don't care about people like that. They just want to keep on pumping out these agendas, using these movies as a way to send specific messages to people around the world, and that's what it's really all about. Deconstructing male characters and really focusing on female-led characters that really are just written very poorly. Let's be honest here about this. It's nothing like Sarah Connor or Ellen Ripley or any of the pop culture icons out there, right? So Helena, as I like to call her jokingly, Helena Jones, I think was the real problem with this movie. That was the real insufferable aspect of Indiana Jones 5. And yeah, I mean, nobody was really asking for a fifth film that featured a far older Indiana Jones per se. They could have just left things where they were left, you know? Where Indiana Jones 4, The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, was pretty much a distant memory. So anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon we hear them moans again.